How's it going, everybody? So I am doing my presentation on Dieselgate. My name is Dan Connolly, and for an overview of the presentation, or I'm sorry, of the case, VW admitted to installing emissions cheating software on their vehicles. This violated the Clean Air Act, which restricts the amount of emissions that can go into the air. The device that they used would shut the emissions equipment off or reduce the amount that they were effective during travel and normal daily use. However, when it went in for a smog, it would turn everything on, so it seemed like it was passing smog. And VW had to pay around 33 million in refits, taking cars back, paying people out for the cars. So it was a big deal. The main issue for this case I came up with was how can VW's management lead VW out of its severest crisis while it is still escalating? So how can they lead it the most efficiently in the direction that it needs to go, given that the crisis is in effect? My sub-issues for this case are where were the problems in Dieselgate caused by VW focusing on the wrong outcome? Does the VW corporate culture promote or condone ethical lapses? Did VW calculate the costs of cheating versus doing the right thing and decide that it made sense economically to cheat? Could VW have handled the scandal better, and if so, how? Is there a system of checks and balances employed to regulate the decisions and actions of upper level management? And if someone had taken responsibility at some point prior to the scandal breaking out publicly, would things have been different? My recommendation for the first point, which was were the problems in Dieselgate caused by VW focusing on the wrong outcome, my recommendation for this would be to have multiple measures of success. So different KPIs that are relevant in ensuring that VW focuses on a culture of honesty and ethical practices. So there are other measures of success just purely, other than just purely getting the product out and pushing the product and within a certain deadline. What else makes a company successful besides that? Because there are more factors. The next recommendation would be to encourage and incentivize ethical decisions over the bottom line. So it's kind of a similar concept of we really want to be Volkswagen really wants to be pushing the concept that it is as important, if not more important, to be ethical and do what's right over meeting the bottom line. Next one is set up a compliance department to ensure that VW is following the correct regulatory standards for VW's products around the world. In order to regulate, to make sure these kind of things don't happen, setting up a compliance department where everything has to go through there and is checked would be a really good idea. And then respond as early as possible when the scandal broke out. Correct the situation by ensuring the stakeholders' expectations are met. So, handling the situation sooner, faster, more efficiently, and responding as early as possible rather than doing nothing. Obviously, it seems like that there were plenty of people who didn't know about what was going on, so responding immediately may not have been what they wanted to do because they didn't want to tell anybody what was going on because they wanted to get away with it. However, that is another recommendation in these kind of situations. Applying these, one application here that I would say is time management performance to programs involving SCR environmental sustainability by working with community leaders to identify needs and allow employees time off to volunteer community environmental work with local and international NGOs wherever Volkswagen has a presence. So this is a part of, you know, the ethical portion of the ethical portion that VW should be pushing, is getting involved with local community leaders, allowing employees to take time off to volunteer and environmental work. It all goes to that consciousness of being of ethical standards and what's important, aside from just the bottom line, aside from just getting the product out. Next one is measure individual and departmental performance and track improvements by customer satisfaction, brand reputation, and financial performance, and ensure that these are audited and signed off by the CEO and BOD. I think the most important part is that things are checked, checks and balances, measuring performance and tracking improvements, but also those improvements need to go through that check process to make sure that these kind of things don't happen, because obviously something was missed, or everybody or people knew and it was intentionally missed. Next portion of the application is revamp the structure of the VW BOD to the US style BOD. Excuse me. So board of directors, it's, you know, board of directors are a part of making decisions and catching errors and discussing things. And unfortunately, the board of directors did not catch this error in this situation. Some of them may have been in on it. I know the CEO was. However, changing the style, changing what they're doing with the board of directors, because obviously the consciousness and the presence of the board of directors was not where it needed to be in order to catch the situation. Next application is set up a website to inform and update stakeholders of what steps VW intend to take to make the stakeholders whole. Come up with a program of money to remedy the damage to customers who bought VW's cars that are now not legal to be driven. Identify and root out the people responsible and restrain, release them from employment to let the stakeholders know that no one is above the law. So VW needs to employ a program to let the stakeholders know how they're going to fix it. They need to come up a program that they let the customers and stakeholders know ahead of time about how they're going to fix it, and root out the people who are the main cause. And this is something that could have been handled internally earlier had this situation been addressed faster. And have weekly meetings between engineering and business heads, analyzing how developments are aligning legally. Any developments that are questionable, take them into consideration and pivot to remain in a legal state. The engineering department and the business, the head of the business department need to be in close contact with regards to what's going on and what they're pushing. And in VW situation, there were some things going on in the engineering department that all the business, finance, that side didn't know, and was kind of kept between a few people. So it's something that would be a good application to be having meetings weekly and reviewing what's going on, and reviewing whether something is ethical or not, and looking at it from a objective and logical perspective, not always, you know, an emotional perspective. Lastly, having seminars and mandatory meetings, events dealing with ethical decisions making that help employees be present with their current decision-making process, getting into small groups and having a hypothetical situation where there is an ethical dilemma and figure out how to handle it. Have upper level management check the decision of the group. There needs to be practice. This is not everybody. A lot of people think that morals just come, you know, ethical decision-making just comes easily, but in reality, you know, sometimes there are situations where it's like, what do you do? And I think having these seminars, meetings, doing this would help exercise that thought process, and it could be supervised by these upper level management to make sure that the right decision is come to. In conclusion, overall, there are a lot of ways that VW executives could have done better to lead VW out of the scandal. they could have handled things more effectively, taking responsibility for the situation earlier on. That was one of the biggest things. This would have led to handling more of the issue internally. It would have reduced the amount of problems that they had with external parties, and the repercussions of that. And they could have potentially saved themselves. However, I think there's a lot of people in that organization who didn't want to get caught and who knew what was going on. So that's a dilemma of creating a more ethically healthy environment. All right, thank you very much.